Greetings, loyal minions, beautiful humans. Welcome to the SciShow, the #1 ranked YouTube channel for people who like to go deep. If that's you, I appreciate you. I personally have no idea. Uh, as you can tell, my voice is a bit crappy. I do apologize for sounding like absolute trash throughout the video. Having said that, most people will probably say I always sound like trash, so that's okay. I have changed my method a little bit. Anyone who watches my Soul Exchange videos knows that I do try to enhance things. So this time I've done the review using the live card in game. So hope that works out. I might still pop up some pros and cons. People have liked that in the past. Remember to stay tuned at the end for the power ranking. It always gives some very interesting information regarding how many souls heroes are worth as opposed to their max power. So please keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, let's enjoy the hero reviews, basically. And of course, I should have mentioned this right at the start, but a huge thank you to Burks G for the amazingly beautiful graphic. Oh my god. Thank the Empires and Puzzles gods. As you know, I'm unwell. I literally was falling asleep scrolling through the heroes, like re-rolling, and like my eyes were drooping. I was like, I know I'm about to fall asleep. And just at that moment, I hit re-roll and realized that I had skipped over Phantom of the Opera. So here we are, an hour and a half later, like 6 ham refills later, and we've got Phantom of the Opera. So I think I'll probably throw a picture up of my eyes. I actually took a picture of my eyes as I was trying to scroll through. But yeah, I'm struggling. Phantom of the Opera, fantastic. He is a fighter class which gives the revive talent. Awesome talent. Member of the Opera family for 1, 2, 3 heroes, 5, 10, 15 attack, defense, and HP. So a tiny little boost for himself. Has the attack up Aether talent. We've seen a lot of that. Resist attack ailment, so can't lower his attack. That's awesome. Well, keep in mind, Wither still works for those sort of things. Heal when status ailment expires or is cleared. Character receives 10% health each time a status ailment expires or is cleansed, removed, or reallocated from them. Ballad of Obsession. So we know the dances are really good for overriding other buffs or ailments. So what do we got? 1274 with the team power. So again, one of the lower ones, which would explain the 10 souls, but does a decent hit. So running at average speed deals 405% damage to the target and nearby enemies. So a 3 hit for 405%. He gets a tiny little bit of attack extra up there. Then the target and nearby enemies dance a Ballad of Obsession for 4 turns. So the Ballad of Obsession, minus 40% mana generation, minus 40 decrease for any healing received. So that overrides all their buffs as well. So that's really good. So anyone that's got buffs, if you can't dispel, like if you don't have a dispeller, this guy basically becomes a dispeller. Minus 40% mana generation and minus 40 for healing. The healing one's a bit of a whatever, especially with the foxes now that can do that through their passive. And the dance does only affect 3. So that's where his downside is. He's a small hitter, and then all he does is drop the mana generation because the healing's kind of pointless. So it's a decent hit. You can pair him up with others, but just, being slightly outdated with that hit and the fact he doesn't do a lot else. The mana generation is really important, especially if you're going against slower heroes because it will really slow them down. But it all comes down to timing. If they're almost full on mana, then it's not going to matter and that sort of stuff. So that's why he's probably not seen as being as good as all the others, but still a decent pick nonetheless with that hit 3. And just a chance to, as I said, drop the mana gen, replace their buffs. So yeah, keep an eye out for my testing video and you'll see him in action. Another thing to mention quickly is any heroes that have an ailment that does damage when it gets removed. So think of your Pepper Flames, your Star Walkers. Phantom is one of the heroes that can override that and therefore force the extra damage to happen. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I don't think there's any in purple that do that, but if you have other coloured heroes where you don't have anyone to manipulate and make that damage happen, Phantom can help you there. Well, Ojima was almost about to have a song made about him making fun of him because I was struggling to find him, but Here he is. We can see he's probably the lowest team power overall 1123. Due to that, I think he's probably going to be the least selected hero. He does have some niche uses. He's Barbarian, which gives the wound, so chance to do some extra damage. It's not a lot. It's nothing. It's probably one of the worst classes around. A bit of extra defense for 6 turns, which comes in handy. He's part of the Bard family. It's probably one of the best things about him. So for a solo, any other heroes who's the only member of their family will get 5% mana generation when paired with a Bard hero. Reduce mana gain from special skills. That can be really useful against a few heroes. Nordic is the main one. Zonalford, any of those newer heroes. Slaposi, I think, and the red one giving extra mana. So that's really handy. It just sits there in the background working. Rhythm of Havoc, fast speed. So the niche thing about him is he destroys all minions from enemies and damages mega minions. So if you're still struggling against any minion summoners or mega minions, he can help you out. Deals 275% damage to all enemies, additional 30% damage to all enemies for each minion, and all enemies get -7 mana generation for each destroyed minion as a stack. So really, he's only useful if you're going against minions. So Horde War, you can make use of him, but with those minions being quite weak, he's not really helping too much. So you really want him against stronger minions to make a big dent. If a minion's got 1000 HP and he destroys it, you're doing a 1000 hit plus the additional hit on top of it, plus you're getting mana gen. So really good hero when he first came out. OP against any sort of minions that are in the meta, but there's not a lot now. And even there's certain heroes like you'd say costume Jiao Chan, but with the costume her minions can't be removed, so that takes it out as well. So very, very niche, and I don't think many people will be picking Ojima. I wouldn't suggest it. I just don't think he's really useful to you. Yeah, I'd definitely take someone else. Even Eliane from that 10 tier would be much better. And yeah, unless you had basic, I would put Nogu, Phantom, and Eliane above Ojima. So that's where he's sitting. Another 10 soul hero is Eliane. I wish they would have just called her Elaine to make it slightly easier. We have the wizard class, so we have the talent of Master Jinx, extra damage for buffs, or a chance of extra damage, so that's really good. Now, Elaine can pair really well with other fire heroes because of the passive, so she does speed herself up as well, but character is immune to ailments that deal burn, so instantly against Untold Tales 2 heroes that have the burn, and anyone else with burn, obviously. But also gains mana on burn, so 5% mana each time an enemy receives burn. So if you've got 5 enemies with burn, that's 25% mana, which will really, really speed you up. So we can see the stats here, 1410 overall, not terrible from the stats, reasonably new hero of the month. Annoyingly, I don't know why, but the hero of the month bonus doesn't kick in until the end of the year, which is ridiculous. Flame Surge is the special, running at average speed. I also just mentioned the special armor as the Aether talent, so extra defense for 6 turns against special skills. Pretty handy. You don't get heaps of special skills before 6 turns, but just in case you do, bit of protection. Deals 300% damage to all enemies, so it's not too bad a hit at average speed for all. All enemies receive 968 burn damage over 4 turns, so not a huge amount, but it's decent. Dispels buffs from all enemies, so dispelling is never going to go out of fashion. It is unfortunate that it's not a priority dispel. Element Link gives fire allies 30% defense against special skills for 4 turns. Not a great Element Link, to be honest. But, if you're putting in a breather red stack. So you really want to pair her with someone that does fire, and specifically someone that does fire at very fast speed if you have them. Gravemaker, very, very old school costume Gravemaker. But there are others out there that do the burn. Anyone that burns speeds her up a bit quicker, but once she gets going, keeping in mind there are enemies now that are, a lot of enemies immune to those sort of ailments, so that can be cleansed. But really, really good. I'd say she's... So for this Soul Exchange, I'm going to try and say sort of, where you would want them, if that makes sense. I see Eliane as a really all-around hero. She can be used basically anywhere. Not going to do anything specific against Titans, but in regards to PV, war, raiding, and also events. She's hitting all, so even upcoming Monster Island should be fantastic. Hits all the enemies for those hordes. But yeah, any sort of mid tier. I don't. Someone has asked me to say, which hero would a low level or mid level. It's so hard to do that. So I'd more so say where you're going to use the hero. And I think Eliane is a really good all around hero. Lovely Lysanor. I actually had just went past her. I have my own, but she's only limit broken once. And I just went past her and I was like, oh, damn, I haven't seen her for a while. Anyway, we've got another one. So, LOL looking good. I loved Lysanor when she first came out. I love revives, but, Monk class gives the withstand, so awesome to resist ailments. We get a heal increase, which is plus 50% for any healing for 6 turns. Probably not overly useful when she is a slow hero. But we do get some extra passive. So I would look at the Stag family. For 1, 2, 3 heroes, there's all received attack status ailments were replaced by 40, 60, 70% buff. Again, not overly useful on a healer. The passives, mana on buff received, gains 5% when they receive a buff or positive stack. So you compare with other blue heroes that will give buffs and try to speed her up. Also, it gets 5% health when they receive a buff or positive stack. Now, keep in mind that also happens with the Aether talent. So that automatically gives you that 5% and the heal. And then the heal has a little bit extra because of the Aether talent. So they work okay, but, it's not the sort of best Aether talent. She's not getting a lot of use out of it. The special skill, Sapphire Eyes, running at slow speed. Each defeated ally has a 60% chance to get revived with 20% HP. All allies get 50% attack for 5 turns. The attack increases by 5% each turn up to 70, so you're getting a nice attack bonus. All allies regenerate 1270 boosted health over 5 turns. That's probably going to be closer to 1400. We'll check that out, though, when I do my testing video, so keep an eye out for that. Boosted health can exceed max HP. So revivers are very hit and miss because if you don't revive anyone, it's pointless. I like the fact that if they heal as well, then you can have them in the team as a healer and the revive's just a bonus. There are obviously better options out there now with people like Sable or heroes like Sable. Even Astrid at average speed does that revive. So there's many others out there. So because of that, I don't think Lysanor will be overly well picked. She's reasonably new, 1305 team power, probably middle to lower range. Again, I'll have my power rankings at the end, the world famous, so stick around for those where we'll see where they all fit. But I think with heroes like Heimdall and Mother North having costumes, I just think it makes Lysanor a little bit less appealing, so to speak. But if you don't have a reviver, 60% chance is awesome. So that's Lysanor. At 10 souls, we have Nagu. I think maybe a touch underrated. I've seen a lot of people say there's not really much in the 10 level. I don't mind Nagu along with Eliane, maybe even Phantom. So we'll have a quick look. Part of the Champions family. So for 1, 2, 3 heroes, he's getting 35, 50, 65% attack. So even for one, that attack stat is just 35% higher. We also have the attack up talent. So for 6 turns, he's also getting an extra 20. Being fast, if you can get him off within those 6 turns with that family bonus, you're getting a really good attack. And I think it makes his attack look a little bit less than it actually will be. Ranger class, so he bypasses defensive buffs, which is handy as well. A lot of passives going on. So mana buff on status ailment received. Receives 24% mana gen for 3 turns when he receives a status ailment or negative stack. Mana on health boosting special skill. Gains 10% mana each time an enemy casts a special skill that directly boosts health. And health boost on enemy health boost. The character gets 450 boosted health each time an enemy casts a special skill that directly boosts health. So a lot going on there, especially against the health boosters. So perfect throw at fast speed, 460% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies receive 759 bleed damage over 3 turns. That's probably going to be closer to 850 once you add troops. For the next 3 turns, the target and nearby enemies convert all boosted health received to max health reduction. Max health is reduced more for target. So a real specialist against that boosted health. But I think in general, he's still quite decent. Like, because that hit, you've already got 35% extra from that. So the hit does become a bit better. I think he pairs well in a green stack. Other hit threes, anyone that's reducing defense, so you could say, like an Archibald who hits all, lowers defense. You've got Grendel who lowers defense, who's a hit three, but also pairs well with some bleed heroes. So I think maybe the obvious one is Sun Earn Yang. So if you can get his bleed damage out, then Sun Earn Yang will do more follow-up damage. Pip, I believe, as well. So yeah, there's a lot of good heroes you can pair him with still that are still relevant. And I just think the 460 is a little bit undersold because of the fact he does get that extra damage. So again, I think a very good all-round hero. Not as good in events, etc., because he's only doing minor damage to the nearby, but can still be used in a pinch. So again, I'd see any level being able to use Nagu and being able to put him in a team. I think another underrated hero at 15 souls is Carter. Fantastic healer. We'll jump straight in. Wizard class, which gives the Jinx, if I can click on the button correctly. So when dealing damage through normal attacks and special skills, 25% chance to deal extra damage. Not great for a healer, but it is what it is. Construct family, really useful family. So their construct core is charged each time they receive damage. Now, when that core, or when you fire your special skill, depending on how much that core is built up, in this case, it's a repair core, and you're boosting the health of all allies by 25%. Scaled. So if you're 50% on your construct core, you'll be boosting it by 12.5%. So on top of his heal, he's getting up to a 25% boost. So basically, if fully done, it's a 70% heal, which is just humongous. Fantastic passive, which is resist special skill blocking. For a healer, that is amazing because it just means you're not going to be able to be stopped from doing your heal. Sorry, I should have mentioned counter-attack, Aether talent, nothing really special there. Team power 1397, so not too bad still. Recovers 45% health for all allies at average speed. Lifts the latest cleansable status ailment from all allies and randomly distributes them on enemies. And all allies get 33% mana generation for 3 turns. So, it's just good all-around healer. Like, again, I think healers get left out a little bit when they don't cleanse or dispel. Now, he cleanses one. Not only does he cleanse, he also puts it back on the enemy. But again, if you've got multiples, that's a bit of a pain. But if you're just going against the tank from like Untold Tales 2, where they're going to give you that frost or burn, it's nice to be able to grab that and put it back on the enemy. I do believe that one is dispellable, so that could work. Yes. So yeah, very good hero. I think well worth the 15 souls. And the only problem is with a healer, like, because there's 4 stars like Regard that have a crap ton of costumes, you can possibly get away with not using Carter and just having a 4-star. The team power is obviously going to be a bit lower, but I think that's also why Carter gets forgotten about a little bit, because there are some 4 stars. But again, a healer who's doing basically 70% with some of the boost, fantastic all around in the game, basically used anywhere. I'm wrapped I could find Alvar as quickly as I did. I am starting to struggle now. I've probably been going for, I don't know, maybe an hour. Starting to struggle to get some of the heroes. And the annoying thing is when you find them, they're not like fully emblemed or leveled sometimes. So anyway, Alvar is one of the newest, 1433 team power. Not too bad still. Has Sorcerer class, which gives the chance to drop mana generation for the enemy, which is fantastic, more so than the attack. Defense up, Aether talent, neither here nor there really. Part of the Stag family. So for 1, 2, 3 heroes, all received attack status ailments will be replaced by 40, 60, 70% attack buffs for 3 turns. So that can be used to your advantage if you're taking against anyone who lowers attack. Doesn't have a lot of passives going on. Health recovery on buff received. So whenever you receive a buff, it's just an extra 5% health. So nice little synergy there if you're pairing with someone that does do a lot of buffs. What do we got? Scroll of New Beginnings. Runs at average speed. Lifts all cleansable status ailments from all allies and randomly distributes them on enemies. The duration of the status ailments is reset for all enemies. Deals 350% damage to all enemies. All enemies reflect status effect buffs to a random character on the opposing team for 4 turns. So I really like Alvar. I think possibly I would say the best at 15 souls. But again, it's just an all-around hero, so I think anyone could find a place for him because there's so many ailments now. So again, you're going against someone like the Untold Tales 2 heroes. There's so many heroes giving frost damage that just multiply water damage that gets stronger. So your River Fangs, your Svarfas, your Vernix. There's just so many of them out there now. All the burn damage. So to be able to lift all those, excuse me, also any mana down. Not only do you cleanse them all, but you put them back on the enemy, and then the enemy is also reflecting any buffs they give. So I just think he's got really good support value and does a 350% hit to all. So he's also hitting reasonably strongly. So I think really good all-round hero, can be used anywhere. Yeah, that's Alvar. All right, Sparklight is one of the heroes available for 15 souls, 1344 team power, not too bad overall. Fighter class, which gives revive, which is awesome. For 1 or 2 heroes with the family bonus, we've got a 50 or 70% chance to dispel a random dispellable buff from an enemy who deals special damage to the character. Pretty decent. Resist poison. We have the shared damage, same as Lemonwood. Attack up Aether talent, 20% for 6 turns. Doesn't help a lot with your special skill. Being average speed, you're generally not going to use it within 6 turns, but if you do, it's a bonus. Enchanted Elven Sword runs at average speed. The special skill never misses its targets, which is nice. Deals 430% damage to the target and nearby enemies. So really good hit 3. The target nearby enemies receive 620 burn damage over 4 turns. The caster and all their allies absorb 45% of burn damage as boosted health. So you're only hitting 3, but all of your allies are getting the boost. Target nearby enemies reflect status effect buffs to a random character on the opposing team for 4 turns. So that's really, really handy. Any buffs out there that are uber, you can get Sparklight off first and steal. For whatever reason, I have Sparklight and don't use a lot. I never have a double limit broker though, so maybe that's why. She just wasn't quite strong enough, and I don't know, I just felt that, especially with those buffs, I just never quite got her off in time to reflect them back to me, I think was the issue. But really good hero. You're probably going to be, that burn damage will go up a little bit with troops and that sort of thing. So you're probably looking at 700. You might be getting around 180 to 200 each enemy. So therefore you're then healing 45% of that. So your heals are probably going to be, 90 odd multiplied by 3. So you're probably going to get around about 250 to 300 boosted health back, which is quite handy. I think it's underrated when it's not a big amount because you don't see the health bar moving a lot, but it is just enough to keep you surviving those slash attacks or any damage over time and that sort of thing. So I think the 15 tier level is very, very close with all the different heroes. I think maybe Satori's a little bit behind, but they all do have different niches. So I think Sparklight, again, it's hard to say exactly what level player because it depends on your roster. But I think in general, it's a really good all-around hero that can be used in basically any part of the game. I thought Satori might have been the one I struggled with most. I was thinking Satori or Ojima. So good luck that I found Satori. We have the Paladin class, which gives the Protect, so a bit of extra damage. We've got damage reduction for 10% for 6 turns as well. So really good for keeping himself alive. 1307 team power is probably middle of the range for these heroes. I think he might be, I don't know, he's possibly the least useful maybe out of the 15 tiers. Maybe him and Daroga, but depending on what you need them for, it doesn't mean too much because I still think he's a good hero. Family bonus, 1, 2, 3, 35, 50, or 65% attack. So instantly his attack is stronger. Lots of passives going on. Mana buff on status ailment received. 24% mana when he receives a status ailment. Health boost on buff dispel. Gains 450 boosted health each time a buff is dispelled from this character. And mana on buff dispel. Character receives 10% mana each time a buff is dispelled. So against dispellers, he's useful, and you'll see that in his special skill. 1,000 Palm Strikes, runs at average speed, deals 315% damage to all enemies, so keeping in mind that's going to be 350. 630% damage against characters that cleanse or dispel using special skills. That's really fantastic. Caster and nearby allies have a 55% chance to drop any received damage to 1 for 4 turns. If it's dispelled, it also dispels buffs from all enemies. So I think for a period, Satori was awesome on defense because if you used him at tank, he would get his special skill off, and you kind of had to cleanse it, or else you're taking the risk of dropping all your damage down and wasting your skills. Plus, he is hitting you for a half decent hit. So it meant if you had a cleanser, dispeller, he's going to do double damage, basically, which is huge. The problem is now, I think there's so many that dispel through passives or family bonuses that it just doesn't have. So I think this is a hero where there's such a huge difference between his best and worst, if that makes sense. So if you're not taking him against anyone that dispels or cleanses, he's kind of not that great. You can wait him out now until the damage drop gets removed, and then you can just wipe them out, basically. So I think that's why he's not quite as useful. But still, if you can take against... I wish the extra damage would happen to all of the enemies, even if there was only one cleanser or dispeller. That would make him a lot more useful. But again, can be used anywhere, especially against any of the events or treasure quest type things. If any of those bosses dispel or cleanse, it just means you can use his special skill to your advantage. And I think that's the main thing with Satori. Against the right teams, he's amazing. Against the wrong teams, he's kind of just pretty average. All right, Daroga, slightly less than everyone else. He's only got 21 emblems. I haven't been able to find a full one, so this will need to do. 1336 team power, again, reasonably middle of the road. 15 souls. He does have some sort of niche uses for Titans. Here's a monk, which gives the talent of withstand, so resisting ailments is fantastic. Opera family, so for 1, 2, 3 heroes, 5, 10, 15% attack, defense, and HP. So even by himself, he's just giving himself a little bit of a boost in all of those. Resist status ailments that affect attack. And heal when status ailment expires or is cleansed. Receives 5% health each time a status ailment expires or is cleansed, removed, or reallocated. Once per turn. It has the dodge Aether talent. Kind of handy, but again, doesn't, really come into play that often. So Echoes Over the Opera, running at fast speed. So he does quite a big hit. So he's probably the biggest sort of single hitter in here. 535% damage, a little bit more with the extra 5%. Target receives 1728 bleed damage over 3 turns. So that's probably going to be closer to like 1900 or even 2000. So he's an absolute huge damage dealer with that bleed. Pair him up with anyone who's increasing that. So you can also pair, in a way, with... Sun and Yang, although her bleed's probably not quite as big, but it just means she's going to do extra damage. So you would hopefully let his bleed spread, because it does spread as well, which is huge. And he also gives 25% attack stack, so that can be a max of 10. So there's the huge upside for the Titans. You can get that up to 250%, especially for Mythic Titans. And again, if you really are interested in competing for Mythic Titans, you need as many heroes that are going to be able to give you those special unique abilities as possible. So I think he's a little more niche. So I'd probably put him in the bottom couple for the 15 tier. But again, it's very, very close. Like, he's not a bad hero. Compare really well if you're wanting to get a big hit on someone and then try to finish them off. Make sure they stay alive. Get that bleed spreading. And just get that damage over time up. So, pretty good hero. I'd say there's better options, but again, depending on your roster, Daroga could be the one for you. Darkfella, probably going to be the most picked hero, I believe. And look, probably the second best overall. There's a few that are quite useful. But Darkfella is especially fantastic on Titans. We'll have a look. So he is a druid, which gives him the minion. So really handy to help keep him alive, especially, his stats are a little outdated. Defense up Aether talents, extra defense for 6 turns helps there as well. Goblin family, quite a decent family bonus. Each time they take damage, removes 50, 75, 100. Actually, it's not really that good anymore. There's not a heap of heroes that will end up with boosted health these days, but was good back in the day. The other thing that's really good is the passive 50% chance to perform the following, which is 90% damage to all enemies and 25% accuracy for 3 turns. So that accuracy seems to go off a lot and works reasonably well. Special skill runs at average speed, the Eagle's Blessing. Recovers 25% health for all allies. All allies get 180 attack and 180 defense from a growth. So keep in mind that's not a percentage. It doesn't wear off. It remains for the whole battle. All allies have 50% chance to deal 270% damage to a random enemy after any subsequent allied special skill is cast for 3 turns. So basically, you've got 5 people with a 50% chance of doing 270% damage. If you cast your special, just say 3 of those will go off. You know, you're doing 270% damage to 3. So the reason that is fantastic is because it will hit the Titan every single time. Once it goes off, like it's not a random enemy, it's always the Titan. And it's just great follow-up damage. It bypasses things like taunt and that sort of stuff. So it makes him, not only is a healer, but he's then also increasing the damage that everyone else is doing and also doing damage on those follow-up hits. So you can just get insane follow-up damage, especially paired with purples. But the huge thing is on Titans, and yeah, if you go watch my testing video when that comes out, you'll see I'm going to try to show the difference of, you know, hitting without that growth as opposed to when you put the growth on. So I think Darkfeather will be, everyone wanted him for Titans for a long time. He's not as crucial now. Obviously, Gasteel has a bit more unique skill, but Darkfeather, especially if you don't have any other growth heroes. But keeping in mind, even with other growth heroes, once you get that growth up, this thing here, doing those extra damages, will just maximize those Titan hits. His growth isn't as big as some people, like Grimsteel, gives a lot more growth, so you can get him up quicker. But yeah, Darkfeather has those follow-up hits, so very, very useful. And again, used all around, because in the events, treasure quest, those sort of things, those follow-up hits are just going to be huge. And throughout the battle, you're just building up your attack and defense. So fantastic hero, and it's great to see him in Soul Exchange. Well worth 20 souls. Another 20 soul hero is Lemonwood. Weirdly enough, I think all of the heroes at the 20 soul level can offer something quite good, as long as you don't have the heroes, obviously. Lemonwood may even be the lowest, but that's not to say it's not a fantastic hero. We have a Ranger, so the talent is the Pierce, chance to bypass defensive buffs, which is really handy. A lot of counterattack heroes, etc. out there now. We have the Dodge Aether talent, so 20% chance to dodge special skills for 6 turns. Not huge, but for anyone that, you know, if you're using on defense and you get that special skill up nice and quick, you can dodge. Good family bonus, 1 or 2 heroes, 50 or 70% chance to dispel a random dispellable buff from an enemy who deals special skill. Resist poison, shared damage received. 20% of damage received by this character is shared with all other allies. That's also handy for some survivability. We have the Wandering Star Shot, fast, mana speed. Special skill never misses its targets, which is fantastic. Deals 380% damage to the target. Reduces the mana of the target by 20%. This is where it gets really, really awesome. If the target has more than 30% mana, after the mana reduction, the special skill repeats, targeting a random enemy. The damage is reduced on each consecutive hit. So, again, I would actually say Lemonwood is an all-around hero, because on offense, so not for Titans, that's generally, you know, there's really only 2 places or 3 places really where heroes, they're good for Titans, are they good for raids or war, and then events. So, and basically raid and war and events are very, very similar. Not just events as in the Alliance quest, but also your treasure quest and that sort of thing. And then you can probably say, is it offense or defense? So Lemonwood was fantastic on defense, was an absolute beast, because she just quite often, she could be terrible, or he, sorry, I don't even know. If it only hits one target, it's just a pretty small hit, but quite often enemies did have more mana than, it's only 30%, so it's not a heap of mana, and she just continues to hit, so she could hit like 7, 8, 9, 10 times. The damage gets smaller, but as long as they've still, so if the enemy team was full of mana, she would just continually hit and basically wipe them all out. So Fantastic. Probably not as useful on defense now just because of how outdated. But again, if you're playing in that sort of mid-level, mid to low, any of these heroes can be used on defense, to a certain degree. But very, very good on offense. So yeah, definitely for warring, raiding, and events, you've just got to make sure you're trying to use it when the enemy has full mana and you're just going to do maximum damage. Ooh, shout out to Kanachi for having a Daemon. Excuse me, wow. I'm hoping I can finish these videos because my voice really isn't holding up very well. Daemon, fantastic hero. I haven't seen him a lot and haven't got him myself, but a lot of people are saying he's fantastic in the 20 souls. He's a fighter, which is straight up good for the revive bonus. Attack up Aether talent, so extra attack for 6 turns. He is very fast, so that can help a little bit. Also, member of the Stag family, 1, 2, 3 heroes. Attack status ailments were replaced by 40, 60, 70% attack buff. In his case, that works well with the attack up if it happens early. Health recovery on buff received. Character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff or positive stack. Better if that's mana, but health is nice. Blood Petals, running it very fast. So I have mentioned recently with some of the very fast heroes, it is hard to find teams for them. But we'll see exactly how that affects Daemon. So in his case, I think it's very good because you're generally using him as a support hero. Blood Petals, running it very fast. Dispels buffs from the target. Blocks talent skill activation for the target for 3 turns. That's neither here nor there. The talent skill is pretty useless. I mean, could be useful against fighters and that to stop them reviving, but it's generally not really going to do a great amount. Deals 485% damage to the target. This is the huge thing. The target cannot cast any new status effects on enemies or allies for 3 turns. So, whilst I don't rate Daemon as an overall hero, so this is where if you're coming up through the ranks, building your teams, I don't think he's going to be that useful in a lot of places. But when he's useful, for a hero that he's useful against, he is absolutely amazing. So the obvious one to think of is Bernadette, because the target cannot cast any new status effects on enemies or allies for 3 turns. So it blocks them from putting on any ailments or buffs. So there's a lot of good heroes that can work against. Because he's only hitting 1, it's not a huge thing, but it really is that matter of stopping someone doing their crazy skills. So think of Bernadette in a rush war. I know there's easier ways to stop her in rush war, but even outside of rush, Daemon, he's going to charge in 6 tiles. You're going to hit that hero. You can even think of heroes like Delufala, who gives you burn damage and also puts all the protection on her own team. If you can get Daemon charged, hit someone, they just can't do those buffs or ailments. So, again, I don't think he's like an overall best pick, but it's one of those things. Against the heroes he's good against, he's absolutely fantastic. In a lot of battles, he's not doing a lot for you apart from a reasonable hit to 1. But there are so many heroes out there now with buffs and ailments that can really mess you up. So, pretty good overall. Fantastic against certain enemies. I'd probably have him... it's very tough. I'd say Hetefriz is the best in the 20 souls. Darkfeather's going to be used a lot for the Titan part. And then the next 3, so I'd say Lemonwood, Mina, and Daemon are all very even. Mina being a hit 3 and mana reduction, probably a bit more useful. But yeah, I mean, again, Daemon's probably the type that even the higher up players will take because he is so useful against the heroes that you need. So if you have a very well-rounded roster where you don't have any sort of generic needs, Daemon is fantastic for that. Yeah, I don't know, I could talk about it a lot more, but it's very hard to say, get this player if you're in this level and that sort of thing. I just think if there's certain heroes with those buffs and ailments you're struggling against, and this can be a very long-term skill, like it's always useful because there's always going to be heroes that do that. So Daemon, for that reason, is fantastic. Costume Hetefriz. Now, I would say the best all-around pick in the Soul Exchange. 20 souls, so top tier. We can see the team power though, 1593. barely lower, so it's only 30 lower than my brand new Thaffa. So definitely very high up in the stats. Has a lot going on, and the reason I say the best overall is because a high percentage healer is never going to go out of fashion. As long as the stats are relevant, she's going to be useful forever. So we have a monk, chance to resist status ailments, which is fantastic for a healer as well. Healing increase. So for 6 turns, you get a 50% increase to healing as the Aether talent, which is also awesome. We have Sunflower. These heroes from, what was it, like the Dunes or whatever, have great passive. So bonus for 1 or 2 heroes, 50, 75% chance to cast at minus 35 accuracy for 2 turns. And a bit of burn damage. A chance of 7,500 if the special skill defeats the character. That's pretty neither here nor there. So that's when when an enemy is dealing special damage. The blind isn't huge because she does have blind as part of the skill. Costume bonus is huge, as we can see. Once these heroes get a costume, they do stay a bit more relevant because generally the costume bonus is getting updated now to kind of keep up with newer heroes. So that's just something to keep in mind. We have the passives. 60% chance to perform the following. Boosts health of all allies by 10%. And cleanses the latest cleansable status ailment from all allies. So one downside of Hetefres is the fact she doesn't cleanse or dispel. But we do have it in a passive. And even though it says it's a 60% chance, it's actually 100% because the next one is guaranteed effect. So it's guaranteed to go off. So not only do you get an extra 10% boost, you also cleanse 1 ailment from all allies. So really useful. Health recovery on buff received. Character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff. She does give herself a buff, so it's even extra healing for herself. Good all-around stats. Average speed special skill, relaxing riddle. Recovers 54% health for all allies. All allies get 64% defense against nature and more each time they are hit. All enemies get minus 45% accuracy for 4 turns. So not only is she healing you basically back to full health and possibly a boost, she's then actually blinding the enemy team. So they can't, excuse me, they've got a lot less chance of hitting you. So you're just going to survive even longer. I really think Hetefres is one of the best healers in the game. Excuse me again, I'm obviously unwell. So that's why I think Hetefres is fantastic. As I said, probably the best overall pick. She's just going to be useful everywhere. And I think can be useful for anyone's roster. Mina, 1390 team power, so reasonably high up, a little bit higher than the middle of all these, I'd say. That makes sense being in 20 souls. I would have loved Mina in the 15 category. Still a very good hero. I think all of these heroes in the 20 category are good anyway, so we'll check her out. Have the Ranger class, which gives the chance to bypass defensive buffs. Always handy. Aether talent of attack up. Being fast speed, you might be able to make use of that. Gargoyle family for 1, 2, 3 heroes. Immune to poison, damage immune to poison damage, immune to poison and burn damage, and immune to poison, burn, and water. So depending on how many, they're immune to more things. That can be really handy if you can team them up against heroes that do those sort of ailments. There are a lot of the ailments around. Also gets the Gargoyle soft skin. So every time the Gargoyle casts a special skill, their soft skin activates. The next 3 times they receive damage, it is reduced by 90%. Also immune to all status ailments, mana reductions, and insanity, which can't be dispelled. So that was always handy against someone like a Bernadette because it can't be dispelled. You drop the damage, but also, this one only affects Mina. Some of them do go to other heroes as well, your allies, but this is just for you. So useful, but not as good as others. Although it is good because you want to keep her alive. Her special skills where the real fun starts. So fluff in the air. Runs at fast speed, deals 390% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. So not a huge hit anymore with that minor to nearby. You can obviously pair with other hit 3 greens, defense down, that sort of thing. But the fluff volleys is where it really happens. At the end of each turn, the caster and nearby allies shoot a fluff volley at a random enemy for 3 turns. Each fluff volley deals 150% damage. So you're doing that. You're doing an extra, 150% to 3 heroes for 3 different turns. So you do get a lot of follow-up damage as well. And each fluff volley reduces the mana of the hit enemy by 5%. That is the absolute key. That's why Mina is so useful. Again, basically everywhere I would say Mina is useful. Events, you're hitting 3. Not top tier if you're trying to get, all the way in. But if you're struggling to complete some of the events, and the fluff volleys just drop enemies' mana. So against the treasure quest, here are things like that, as long as they're not immune or, feeding off that mana like the fawns do, Mina is extremely useful and looks pretty cool. And the fluff volleys look cool as well. So, just all around awesome hero. I would possibly, I think these heroes at 20 all have something to offer. So it's very hard to rank them because it really depends on what you're looking for. I think the mana drop is always going to be a useful skill though. So that's Mina. A very quick poor graphic to give some thoughts about the options available. Again, I cannot stress enough, this all depends on your roster and what specific needs you have, but this is just a guide to help you out if you're really stuck. As promised, the eagerly awaited, world famous power rankings. So I think the really interesting thing that stands out here is a couple of things. Eliane at 10 souls is the 3rd highest team power. Again, I think she gets overlooked because she is a Hero of the Month. Keeping in mind, she will also get a 2025 Hero of the Month family bonus in a couple of months, which will make her stronger to some degree. I think the other one that stands out really, really largely, Alvar at 2nd place is also a great pickup. A lot of people don't realize Alvar, the skill he has. And also, I think Darkfeather being very, very low on the table, but at 20 souls is seen as a great pickup. And I think that really highlights the difference between a powerful hero and a hero that has a useful skill, if that makes sense. Ojima being last is, basically says it all. But yeah, I think Darkfeather stands out. 20 souls, but a lot of people are going to be picking him up because he has a unique skill that can help in specific areas of the game. So I'll let you read through all the reasons. They're just silly, as per always. And I've also put together a song to sum up those reasons as well. So read through and enjoy the song. I think I may also put an interpretive dance version of this song in my testing video, which will be out in the next couple of days. So please keep an eye out for that as well.
That tail got me praying for blindness. Cover my eyes, babe. Alva shows up with Xera's regret. Picked up an STD and he ain't done yet. Aliens rock and roll, she's a grandma in heat. Harry Potter at 100 trying to sweep you off your feet. Carter's checking scroll size, but hey, not me. I'm innocent, I swear, it's bigger than a bee. Why to pick, everybody got a kick. Every hero got a vibe that'll push you to the brink. Nature, ice, fire, holy, dark, take your pick. Welcome to the roster where the choices get thick. Where the choices get thick. Mana brings the fluff, volley feathers in the sky. Damon's boy band posing like he's ready to cry. Duraga's just a toy when your fave goes flat. Spin him round, break him in. What you think about that? Lemon wood will drain you over and over like a holy hoover. Goodbye, composure. Spark lights got the ice sword. Hot fireball blast. Party time explodes. Better buckle up fast. Why to pick? Everybody got a kick. Every hero got a vibe that'll push you to the brink. Nature, ice, fire, holy, dark, take your pick. Welcome to the roster where the choices get thick. Where the choices get thick. No goose spear, long and fast, no shame. Satori's only sumo sliding into the game. Listeners' horns will revive your soul or knock you out cold. Play your role. Phantom lurks in shadows like a sad romance. Depressed stalker energy, but damn, he can dance. Dark feathers got the tickle in the very wrong spot. It'll game us at it hurts a lot. Why to pick, come on, spin that wheel. Every hero got a reason that you shouldn't, but you will. Holy dog, fire, ice, nature, take your pick. Welcome to the roster, where the choices get sick. Where the choices get sick. Where the choices get thick.
I think we can all agree that is the most complete rundown you're ever going to get. You will never want to miss anything like that again, so remember to subscribe, give your kitty a scratch for me, and have a bloody good one.